Welcome to the Coaches Chat. I'm your host, John Serenitas, and we kick off the offseason tonight with our first guest of the offseason, a man who I consider a good friend and someone that I have nothing but the utmost respect for, the one, the only, Al Fornaro, head football coach at Xaverian Brothers High School. Al, great to see you, my friend. How are you?
Very well, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Can't complain. As you know, people stop listening after a while, so that's how it works. First things first, congratulations on the three-peat. You guys did something that, let's be honest, is very rare in Massachusetts high school football history, but you were able to accomplish it, winning your third straight Division I title. Um, just some overall thoughts on that as we kick off the conversation here. I mean, it's got to be an unbelievable feeling to accomplish something that's so rare.
Well, thank you, and yes, absolutely. There have been teams who've done back to back, and we all know, first of all, it's very difficult just to get to that final game and then to win it. And we're very blessed. We had a number of pieces that we felt we could be successful. As a coach, you never want to really project anything when people in the off season at our school, even administrator, three-peat. And all I would say is beat Fian because that was our first game. And truly, we just want to play each game. Now, when it became apparent that we were going to play in that game, kids do funny things, right? We won the semifinal and they're all, don't touch the trophy, don't touch the trophy. Like that really matters. I mean,
Right,
you know,
right.
but their mindset was now let's finish, in their minds, what was business all the way from the start of the season.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, when you think about Xaverian football, obviously the rich history and the legacy and the tradition, and of course you're a part of that. You are a graduate of Xaverian Brothers High School. Talk about your experience there and how you got into coaching and coaching at Xaverian specifically.
Well, when I was a student there, my head coach was George McCabe. Great man, great coach. George just did not have a lot of talent. This is back, we only played 9 games. We were 2-7 my senior year. From there, I went to Bridgeton Academy in Bridgeton, Maine, and played for Tom Austin. And I left there and I went to Northeastern as a walk on. My line coach at Xaverian, Mr. Lally, knew someone who was a grad assistant. So Bo Lyons was the head coach, took me on, as a walk on. And things just weren't for me at school type of deal. So I got a phone call that summer from Mr. Lally asking if I'd be interested in coming and being a JV line coach. And the hook was I could coach against, I've got 2 younger brothers, my middle younger brother, who was a student at the time at Don Bosco. So a little bit of sibling rivalry. I was all for that. I had no idea what I was doing. I was, at the time, I was, 19 years old, and I just tried to absorb as much as I could from the coaches. All of the seniors on that team had been freshmen when I was a senior, so there was some familiarity there, and I just enjoyed it. I couldn't get enough of it. All those way back when Frank Lasia was alive, going to his mega clinics out in Burlington, and just trying to gain as much knowledge of the game that I could. I think as we go on, we realize we're never going to have enough knowledge, right? People who think they know it all should probably get out of the game because the game changes. You've got certain standards you all go by, but just you want to stay up on the latest trends to try and stay ahead of the game. And I've been fortunate that they've allowed me to stay on. I worked for Coach McCabe, and then I worked for Charlie Stevenson, another Hall of Fame member. And then when he retired, I applied for the job as he suggested that I do. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to be the head coach, right? It's really easier to be an assistant.
Yep, it is.
And as you know, being the head coach, it's like sometimes there's less coaching football. There's all
Yep.
those extraneous things that take up your time. But I'm happy to be the coach. I'm glad I'm the coach, and that's because of the wonderful young men that I get to go to practice every day in the fall. Again, we're very fortunate. We've got a highly motivated group of young men who are talented, and they come to practice every day to compete and to prepare and get better.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? I mean, I've always said that it's the kids that make the program and the people you coach. And I don't care whether it's at a public school, Catholic school, private school. It's all about the people you coach. And ultimately, I think when you look at the kind of kids that you coach at Xaverian, you coach kids that are highly motivated. They care about their academics. Not that they don't in other schools or that kids aren't highly motivated in other schools. But, I mean, let's be honest here. They pay to go to school there. They care about their academics. They care about their athletics. And they strive for more. Talk about that experience, coaching that you were that kid at one time. Talk about the experience of coaching the Xaverian kid and what that means to you.
Well, as you said, they're high motivated, and I think every young man that enters our program has high aspirations. We were all that age. I remember writing a paper for my English teacher at school about going into the Hall of Fame. And he had written some things. I go, well, you asked for a fantasy paper. I don't really think that. But all of our young men aspire to go and play at the next level. And I feel this is true not only for our school, but for any other school. If you're a starter in high school, you can probably play in college. It's just what level. If you want to go, there are plenty of schools that need players. Only a select few are able to play at the highest level. And I'll be honest, I don't even know what the difference is between FBS and FCS. I wish they would go back to 1 and 1AA. But that being said,
spoken like an old soul.
I'll tell you, I don't know if it's an old soul or just an old man who can't remember things. What we try and tell the young men is, don't let football use you. You use football. Use football and athletics, and specifically in football, but in general, to enhance your educational opportunities. We've been successful in placing our student athletes at the NESCAC schools. If everybody will hear, okay, Greg Camella goes to Stanford, Matt Hasselbeck goes to BC, Joe Gaziano goes to Northwestern, Mo Hurst goes to Michigan. Well, we have 10 of those young men who have gone on to Bowdoin, Amherst, Williams, Bates, Trinity. And it's good football. People think it's like JV. It's real football.
No, it's
and
real
so,
football. It's real good football.
Yes. And the educational opportunities they're all going to have when they go to those schools and the connections they make are, you can't pay. I know they're going to pay tuition, but you can't pay for that. It's life altering, and so they understand that. 2 of our boys are going to join each other again next fall at Union College. Marty Bonds just committed. He wasn't supposed to say it. He hasn't put it on Twitter or whatever else they put it on to New Haven. And I'm happy because I know they love the game of football. And as I told the 3 of them, now the real work starts. If you thought you had to work in high school, well, now you're going where, I understand they might play 1 or 2 JV games, but you're the low man of the totem pole, and you've got to go out and prove yourself every single day.
Xaverian for a long time has been a program that has won the old-fashioned way. You run the football, you ball control people, play action, drop back, play good defense, play effective special teams. And that for a long time under Charlie Stevenson, and to a certain degree has been the formula for success. But the last couple of years, it hasn't been the Xaverian we're accustomed to. Obviously, you've had really good quarterback play with Henry Hasselbeck, Will Wood, Dave Shivigato, Christian McIntyre, 2 big play receivers. Talk about that change in philosophy. I mean, obviously, you always want to suit your philosophy schematically to your talent and what you have in the program. But what was that change like for you as a head coach, a guy that, again, when you think about Xaverian football, you talk about physical football, winning the line of scrimmage, running the ball, playing good defense. What does it mean to you to change that style of play and say, hey, you know what? We're going to put the ball in our quarterback's hands and let our skill guys win us football games?
Well, I like to say I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. We're going to do what we need to do to try and win football games. Now, yes, my DNA is such that we want to come downhill, off tackle, and bloody people's noses. However, if we do that and you're not successful, you just can't turn to your players and say, try harder. That doesn't solve it. And in the past few years, we've had dynamic, not that the quarterbacks we had before weren't, but we've had some pretty dynamic athletes at that position and some dynamic athletes out on the perimeter. I've got, first of all, I've got great offensive coordinator, James Carvin. I've got a great quarterback. We've got more quarterback coaches I can shake a stick at, guys that have come and helped us. I turn around at practice. I'm not even sure who these people are sometimes, but I'm grateful for them. And again, we're blessed to have that. But if people watch, and you can see it, it's on YouTube, I'm chewing a straw. Well, that's so I don't bite people's heads off. It gets nervous energy, and I'll go down to James, and I trust him. We have our meetings on Sundays, and this might be, people say, you really? I was almost ready in that game to tell him in the fourth quarter, throw the dang ball every down. I don't care, because we had a really tough time running the ball against St. John's. I mean, they're a very good defensive team, and
Yep.
everybody has weaknesses. They're still good, but their secondary is not as good as their front seven. So you have to be able to adapt, and every team, I believe, works on that. I understand, like say Fairhaven, they probably have a few passes, and what they do works for them, and that's great, and it has always worked. And for the longest time, it did for us. But we just had to make a little bit of a change. We still want to, control the ball, and you can do that with the pass. But I got to tell you, I'm not going to turn around and yell at my OC if there's a 60-yard touchdown pass and we're not eating 5 minutes off the clock.
No.
So,
No, and that's just it, right? At the end of the day, you got to do whatever it takes to win a football game. And we know this. We've been in coaching for a long time. I've been coaching 30 years. I mean, the beauty of doing what we do offensively, being multiple in nature, is that it allows you to cater it to your personnel and what you have coming back on a year-to-year basis. And I think, and this is not a knock on system coaches, Al, you want to run the spread, run the spread. You want to run the wing tee, run the wing tee. I grew up in the wing tee. I love that offense. But all of that being said, when you're multiple and you have the ability to do some different things, it allows you to cater to your personnel. And I would say the same thing goes on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. As you said, you can, we'll go back, offense that has pretty much gone the way of the dodo bird. If you're a wishbone option offense and you don't have a quarterback who can make the mesh read, and you don't have a tough fullback that's going to get 3 yards and he knows he's going to get whacked because defensively you want to take away the fullback in an option front, well, then you're crazy. I mean, that would be like a spread guy coming out and he's got just big old horses and a fullback and a tailback that can run like the wind and decide he wants to go 5 wide. But his quarterback can't throw the ball from me to you. You're doing a disservice to those young, and they're going to get frustrated. A coach is going to get frustrated. You can't force it. We can't go out there and recruit, hey, this, whatever the stars mean, right? This 5-star, 14-year-old or whatever to come and run the offense. You've got to take a look at what you have, and hopefully it's something that you as a coach can adjust to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the name of the game. And I think you're seeing this. And again, I'm not disparaging spread coaches. There's a lot of great ones in our state that do a great job running that offense. Good buddy of ours, Steve Dombowski, comes to mind. But
I was just going to say that, yes.
Yeah, but I think at some point you can't force the square peg into a round hole. You've got to run a system that allows you to adapt to what you have personnel-wise. And I think playing the way that programs like ours, whether it be you guys at Xaverian or all the years I've been at King Philip, when I was a head coach at Norwood, I was the same way. It just allows you to be able to take advantage of the personnel you have. And I think that's vitally important. You are watching the Coaches Chat. I'm your host, John Serenitas. And for the inaugural episode of this offseason, I'm joined by Al Fornaro, head football coach at Xaverian Brothers High School. And Al, I want to ask you about the kids, because one thing, in all the years I've known you, it's always been about the kids. You make it about the kids. And let's be honest here. It's not easy being the head football coach at Xaverian Brothers High School. There's high expectations. There's pressure with the job. I don't need to tell you that. But you have never wavered. Your philosophy is always centered around those young men, or as you like to call them, those young boys. Why is that? Why has that always? Why have you been able to block out the noise and make it so much about the kids?
Well, as we tried to tell our young men, boys, athletes, you've got to block out that stuff. You've got to focus that, because that means nothing to what we're trying to do. And anybody who's coaching in high school, who's worth their salt, as they say, is trying to develop good young men. One of the things we try and tell a boy when he comes into our program, we're going to just try and help you become the best version of yourself, athletically and academically, as we can. To do less of that is doing a disservice to that young man. Every week I tell them, look, that scoreboard, that's for the fans. It's not about you. Go out and compete as hard as you can. There's that poem, the man in the mirror type of thing. If you can look at yourself after a game and you truly believe that you went as hard as you could and you competed and it just didn't come out, sometimes that other guy's better. I'm okay with that. Now, I'm not okay with it if we didn't perform the way we should be. But after all, it's said and done, they're getting an education. I can't promise them a job in 15 years, but hopefully we can work it so they're getting into a college of their choice. And if it's not about your players, who is it about? I mean, you work in a school, you guys see the young men more than their parents do. Quite often that boy goes home, he's tired, he eats, does homework, goes to sleep. Gets up early the next morning and is gone. So, whether someone feels that their best role is to be a role model and to mentor a young man in certain things, coaches coach with different styles. I don't really have any screamers. A few of my staff are a little bit older. I think they might have a coronary if they did start running, yelling at people. But, if it's not about your young man, young people aren't dumb. They'll sense that if it's, about yourself. And I've said this publicly, and I'll say it again. If it's not for the players, anything that the coach gets, all these and accolades are nice, sure. But without the players, that stuff doesn't happen. And I'm telling you right now, the young men, the ones who go out there and play on Friday nights, that's why we win. Not because of me, not because of my assistants. And I've got great assistants. But it should be about them because it is about them.
Yeah. No, you win because of your players. It should always be about the players. It should always be about the kids and doing right by them, because ultimately they're the ones that go out there and perform. And I think oftentimes, Al, this gets lost on people. We ask a lot of these young men. I don't care what program it is, what part of the state, what part of the region, what part of the country. When you make the commitment to play football, and every sport's a commitment, but football, in my opinion, is another level of commitment. You ask a lot of these young men. So when they have success, it should be about them. The onus should be on them, because ultimately, while we put in plenty of hours as coaches and we put in plenty of work, they ultimately do just as much, if not more. And it is because they go that extra mile and because they perform at such a high level. If nothing else, they make us look good, and that helps. Obviously, when you think about Xaverian football, you mentioned some of the players that have gone through the program that have gone on to play big-time college football and have had success. When you think about this senior class, you've got some guys, obviously, Dave Chivagato going to UMass. Christian's going to PG a year. You mentioned Marty Barnes. But when you mention this senior class, and for you to win 3 in a row, it's not just 1 or 2 classes. You need to stack some good classes in order to be able to do that. But talk about this senior class, because this senior class was a part of all 3 of those starting their sophomore year. A bunch of these guys played for you that year. Talk about this senior class and what they've meant to this program.
Well, I'll tell you what, not to be redundant, but without them, we don't have the success. When they were sophomores, and we were fortunate enough to win that year, quite a few of them had taken a little bit of a role. The only start at the beginning of the year was Gino Gioso. He was the left guard when we started the season. Then, Christian played a little bit, special teams, and then Dave would come in nickel, and he would be like a strong drop-down strong safety or the back-end safety. But when the opportunity arose, we could get some of those boys involved. But they made their bones by playing scout team. And you know how it is sometimes? Give me a tackle, and nobody moves.
No, they're all looking at you, especially later in the year when it's cold and they don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
They're just standing there pretending they didn't hear you.
That's right. These young men now sometimes they would need a little cajole. They would jump in, and they got better because of it. And they said it to themselves about how they felt that going forward, meaning last year, they could be a really good team. And we had 4 underclassmen starting up front last year for us. And then this year, the whole thing was at the talk early in the summertime, and I got this from a parent. We could do something special. I'm not going to quash that. That's fine. That's as long as they're not going on some message board or, to the newspapers. Oh, we're going to. No, that just gives somebody else bulletin board, and it keeps the focus off of what you're trying to do, which is get better every day. But we had boys who played for us. Brian Escano, who's our center, who's going to go to Providence College and get a great financial aid package, who's a 5'9", 255-pound center who dislocated his shoulder as a freshman. They had to cut the shirt off of him, and he coached, when can I play again? Well, the doctor's going to, he just loves playing with his friends. And the bond that they have. Now, as you know, we're a commuter school, as we like to say. We got guys that come from all over, but they would get together, on the weekends, on a Friday night in the off season, go down to Papagino's or whatever, because they felt a kinship with each other and they liked each other. They really did. Now, on the field, they might be biting each other in the butt at times, but they really felt that if they worked hard, and they did work hard, they could achieve something. I try to, again, the only thing that I tell them is every year is we want to try and go out and compete for the Catholic Conference. We can control that. The MIAA might get rid of the playoffs tomorrow. I don't know. So I can't tell you about that end of the game. And Nico Torglione was transferred in as a sophomore. He was an offensive lineman and became a heck of a fullback and a defensive tackle, an undersized guy who just is going to go to college, doesn't want to play. And that's fine. He had a great time playing high school football, and he was beloved by his teammates. He scored against Springfield Central to kind of seal the deal at the end of the game, and they were loving it because he's a guy who carries the ball. And back when we were still a little bit running isos and powers, and he's slamming his body up against large human beings. So I just think that they all realized that the time and effort they put in, was well worth it, and they were able to gel as a unit that way.
All right, Coach, we got a couple more minutes left here. And again, I want to say thank you for taking the time. I really do appreciate it, my friend. Obviously, everybody now is looking ahead to 2026, and we're moving on to next season. And you've got a good group returning, specifically quarterback Will Wood. Talk about Will and what he's meant to this program, and what are your expectations for him in his senior year?
Well, he's got to get better. Everybody has to get better. If you don't get better, if you remain stagnant, guess what? Your competitors are getting better. The late Dr. Lenkaitis, whose son played for us, talks about when he was in college, they used to say, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And that's what it looks like sometimes if you're not working hard. And he needs to get better. Now people say, well, what do you mean by better? Well, everything's got to do better. I mean, he does it very well, but what's wrong with getting better? He's been just an extreme young man, and what he's meant for our program is stability at that position. Okay, there are some schools who played softball as a quarterback because they had to. That he was the man, but he proved in the off season that he was, the guy that we could really rely on. He had the benefit of, again, having Matt Hasselbeck for 2 years. My quarterback coach, Billy Carvin, was a head coach at Nichols College for 14 years.
I coached against him. Yeah.
There you go. And, he coached with Donnie Brown and up at Plymouth State for a short time.
Yep.
And then Brian Hoyer, whose boys at our school, would come in on Mondays because he's got other business things that he has to do. He's got a couple of podcasts and whatnot. And he says he wants to have a little bit more of an active role. I think he's going to coach.
So you'll have like 6 quarterbacks coaches next year.
I was serious. Yeah, I don't know who's here today. And here's the beautiful thing: is Brian came up on a Monday, and Billy's with us because his work schedule sometimes he can't be there. And Billy's awesome. He goes, Coach, I'm going to go work over here. And afterwards, I go, how was it? And he wasn't bragging, but he goes, every drill that he did is what we do. There's no secret drill, but when it's a pro, all of a sudden the ears perk up from the kid.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I've been doing this way too long. I don't care how the message gets delivered as long as the message gets delivered. Yeah. But Will would study about what was going on in practice and talk to Matt, and even I'll talk to Brian and talk to my OC and to Billy. He is a true student of the game, and he wants to get better. He physically, he told me the other day he's, about between 215 and 220. I said, okay, unless you want to be a god, let's slow it down a little bit because I don't want him to get slow. I mean, he's one of those young men, he's thick in the lower body. but he can extend the plays with his feet, and he's not afraid to.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. How can he get back? What do most high school quarterbacks do when their friends are wide receivers? They want to throw the ball deep. It's like Al Davis is on the sideline. Throw it deep. Take what the defense gives you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, they don't like checkdowns. I
No.
said it for years, and I actually got this from Coach Morris when he was at UMass as their offensive coordinator, Kevin Morris. He used to
Yes.
talk about, putting money in the bank. Take that check down, especially if it's second and medium. You know what I mean? Third and
Right.
short, third and medium. You throw it, take the guy underneath, take the check down. It's like putting money in the bank. But no, you're right. And hey, listen, you can't knock the kid. I mean, he had a monster year. Obviously,
Yes.
Christian had a monster year. It worked, but they're special. You're not going to have that every single year.
That's right. He's going to have, depending upon what we're doing formationally, anywhere between 3 or 5 new receivers. Luckily for us, 4 of them all got varsity time. And it's the old Tom Brady thing. Who's your best receiver? The open one. And he'll do a good job of, people have asked us, back when we had Timmy Hasselbeck, so he goes, does Timmy get to his 4th read? I go, 4th read? This is high school. I'm happy to get 1 read and throw the ball
Right.
before he's looking out his ear hole. I mean, we don't have
Right.
Moses playing tackle for us, but I think Will, his command of our offense and the directive that we want to do each week, and he's such a competitor that again, it's for us, it's a blessing to have it. And you know yourself, if you can have a 3-year veteran playing quarterback, there's a little comfortability going into the season with that.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. I mean, and look, it's the most important position in sports. It's the most important position in football. If you have stability there and you can lean on that guy, everything else falls into place. And for you guys this upcoming season, you're going to have a lot of new faces, but having him there as that stabilizing presence with that experience, that's going to be huge for you guys. And I know it's early, but what's on tap for the offseason? What are you looking forward to here for the boys, and what do you want them to accomplish this offseason before we get into next year?
Well, I tell all of our athletes, I want them to compete in as many things as they can for many reasons. And I tell them at some point in time, someone's going to come to you and say, we don't need you. I go, Barry Sanders did it. He was, from pros. Okay. Tom Brady did it twice. Brett Favre did it, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. I go, these young men, you're not going to have that opportunity. So, you want to play basketball? Go ahead. That's a cut sport. The only thing I asked them to do is get faster, get stronger. Now, we started our postseason because I'm such a benevolent coach. I gave them an extra week off, and then I told them the truth. Hey, we're 3 weeks behind. So I'm just finishing up now, going through the roster, and I speak to each young man, and I give them 4 things they need to work on. And yes, one of them is always speed, and for most all of them, another one is strength. But some it's agility, flexibility. I got 2 boys that need to really take control of their weight management because they're just getting a little bit heavy. They're on the track team and they're shot putters. Those guys don't run for nothing.
No, they don't.
So,
so they like to eat. I mean, we can put those guys to work, though.
Yeah,
we can use those biggies.
That's right. They need to be able to move. And obviously, they've got to focus on their academics because that is the primary goal, to go to college if things work out for them at the end of the year. And I tell them all the time, look, you can do a lot of the drills, and they've already done it. Like Will goes up and throws in the morning. They're going to start right now. I work, so I can't be there. They'll run on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting the second Tuesday in February. And one day's acceleration, the other day's agility. I give them a sheet of paper. I send it to them on Huddle. They all know it. They've been doing the drills in the summertime. It's track stuff, but not without the heavy load, and agility drills, whether they're doing a W drill. And I hey, Lyman, why don't you do a kick slide W drill? It's fine. You're out there. Nobody's coaching you. There's nothing illegal. But the mindset to be, again, forming as a team and doing work. Get faster, get stronger, get more agile. And then as the spring rolls in, we have the showcase. And I'll talk to them about some of these guys who want to go to the Bone and they'll want to visit colleges. What's the right path? I had a boy a couple of years ago say, hey, Coach, I got this. You got a flyer from Clemson. And I said, well, if your parents want a weekend in South Carolina, fine, but you're not going to Clemson. What are you doing? Go. And the mega camps have their pluses and I think sometimes more minuses because it's so big.
Yeah.
Pick.
Yeah, you get lost in the shuffle.
Right. But if there's a school that has taken interest on you, and like I know URI one time had, and there were only, I shouldn't say only, there were like 9 colleges. Well, go. If Sacred Heart's there and you're interested and it's closer than going to go and take, introduce yourself. The highlight tape thing is okay, but as you know, all of the large schools, they all subscribe so they can watch film. Stanford was watching Will every week, and it's like, what's highlight show going to tell them more than watching him every snap, or a tackle, or anybody? They all pay for it, all the way down to, I believe, UNH does it as well, and so does UMass, which are the local schools, obviously. So I mean, they need to work on their things that right now they're not where they need to be, and just get better.
Yeah. And that's the name of the game. It always is. It always has been. Well, Al, I want to say thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it, my friend. I always enjoy our conversations. I always enjoy talking football with you, reminiscing about the old EFL, talking life, whatever it might be. I really thoroughly enjoy our conversations, my friend. I enjoy our text exchanges. And I want to, again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time tonight. I know that you're a busy man, so I appreciate giving us some time here.
My pleasure. Anything I can do to help promote the great game of football in our state, John, I'll do it, because I think it's important. I think it's important for every athlete in the state who plays.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, my friend, and that's why we do what we do at New England Football Journal. It's
Yes,
it's
sir.
for the game. We do it because we recognize, and this is why I started this in 2019. It's because I recognize we need a messenger for the game. We need somebody who is going to stand up for the game and promote it. And I hope we're doing that. I wish we could do more. We do the best we can with our resources, but I couldn't agree with you more. The game supersedes everything. At the end of the day, we wouldn't have what we have if it wasn't for this great game. So
Absolutely.
again, it's great to hear that, and I know that we have a great coaching community that shares in that opinion as well. All right, Coach Fornaro, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Sure, I'll catch up with you next month at the New England Coaches Clinic at Gillette. So looking forward to that.
Yes, sir.
I have a little. I'll have a little present for you that day too. So you'll find out this weekend. I'm sure you can figure out what I'm talking about, but I'll be giving it to you there. So
Oh. All right.
all right.
Looking forward to seeing you out of Gillette, John.
Same here, my friend. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Coaching Chat. For Fornaro, I'm John Sirenitas. Till next time, have a good rest of your evening. Peace.